us an update on how your thinking has changed within the debate over the last 3 weeks or 3 months.
Well, the treaty itself is a mixed bag. I think what it does for the next 10 or 15 years is it puts a ceiling on Iranian nuclear capability. That's the good part of the agreement. There's two, though, big flaws. One is it gives Iran greater access to resources to fuel its regional policies, many of which are directly opposed to our interests. Just as important, after 10 or 15 years, the constraints on its capacities in the nuclear area come off. So there's a big question mark. What happens after 10 or 15 years?
Has the President and Secretary Kerry given confidence to the debate? How are they performing in terms of informing America?
I think the informing part is okay. There's a little bit of uncertainty about some of the understandings between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency, which has to verify the agreement. But I don't think they've yet come forward enough with the policy explanations. What will we do to deal with these two shortcomings? What will we do to deal with Iran's regional thrust? And how are we going to be sure that 10 or 15 years from now, Iran, for example, won't start accumulating high-enriched uranium, which is the basic stuff of a bomb? That's the stuff that they and the Congress need to focus on now.
Well, you have come up with some ideas for that, and you're suggesting that Congress approve the deal, but conditional on the United States adopting specific platforms.
Absolutely. I think that's the only. It's too late to amend the deal. It's not necessarily the deal I would have negotiated, but it's the only deal we have. And at this point, for a great power to simply say, never mind, I think creates as many problems as it solves. But we've got to deal with the regional challenges. We've got to strengthen some of the countries around the region, such as Israel, such as some of the Arab countries. We've got to discourage them from having nuclear programs of their own. And we've got to think about how, after, say, 15 years, the wraps don't come off. One of the things I would do is put into place a ban that are on Iran so it can't accumulate the basic ingredient of a nuclear weapon down the road. I don't just want 10 or 15 years. I want this to be permanent. I want an open-ended prohibition on Iran becoming a nuclear weapons power.
Will the rest of the world go along with that?
I think there's a decent chance that the Europeans will, and I think that's something we should insist on. We've got time to put that into place. That's something that ought to become a bipartisan commitment on the part of the United States.
Tell us about, and you've been so good on this over the years, our changing relationship with Saudi Arabia. I must assume it is Iran versus Saudi Arabia, all that culture, a new royalty, and a generational changing of the guard. Are we ready for that?
I'm not sure the Saudis are ready for it. This succession, shall we say, has been very uneasy. The in-house fighting has not in any way been settled. But Saudi Arabia has been the most difficult of allies. We use the word friend, ally, but let's be real. We have disagreed on some fundamental issues. Saudi Arabia, over the decades, has been the principal provider of resources to radical Islam and institutions and educational and schools and seminaries around the world. So they have been part of the problem.
Within this, and I think of the stereotype that Americans have about what you are steeped in each and every day, and it goes back to Lawrence of Arabia and Alec Guinness playing Ibn Saud from another time and place. If you were speaking to Americans now about how we need to address these geographies and cultures, what's our #1 projection? What do we do? How do we be assertive?
Well, the answer is we try to get them to do some of the reforms they need to do, but the answer is, Tom, they're not going to listen to us.
They're not going to listen to us.
No, so I think that basically what our notion of a stable Middle East that somehow bears some resemblance to what Mr. Rand and Mr. McNally have given us in the way of a map, that's over. And it's not coming back together. We're not going to see in Iraq, Syria, and talking about Saudi Arabia, I'm worried that Saudi Arabia may be in play. At some point, this group that calls itself the Islamic State, it is not going to be content with someone else controlling Mecca and Medina. So one of the big challenges, one of the big showdowns in the Middle East is yet to come, which is whether the House of Saud can survive the challenge that's going to come from the Islamic State.
That's a stunning statement, and I mean, obviously we got to have Richard back to talk about that.
I absolutely.
I mean, talk about upending the world.
That's the biggest piece of geopolitical risk that has not been priced into the markets, is the future stability of Saudi Arabia.
And drones are not getting it done. I mean, a drone strike here, a drone strike there.
Drones are a tool. They take care of individuals, but drones can't deal with the fundamentals, the underlying challenge.
Okay.